Yo, what's up, everybody? Randy here, Nerds Templar, chilling in our Beyond Lumina live viewing episode 12, coming out today in less than a half hour at this point. Uh, Super exciting. Yeah, this is the second new episode in a bit. It's been actually 2 years since we were releasing any episodes. The first 10, 2 years ago. We actually went through all those live though recently, and now we're back to releasing new episodes and at the same time watching those live, just like we were doing the other ones. So, welcome. This is that stream, and yeah, so we're gonna wait a little bit. Gonna wait till 9:30 here. So about 25 minutes maybe. I was gonna wait a little longer. I was gonna actually start the very beginning of this stream, which I did 8 minutes ago. I was gonna actually start that at 9, 3 minutes ago. So, but that's okay. We'll just have to hang out here a bit. But in the meantime, like and subscribe. I will chat a little bit about the other things that happen here on the channel, I suppose, schedule-wise, what's coming up as well. And also just tell you a bit about Beyond Lumina, I suppose. And before of course, we do the official previously on to just kind of give it overview, a closer overview though of maybe the last 3 or so episodes, what's been going on. Yeah, so that's where we're at. Yeah, like I said, this is our own story here from Nerds Templar. One of many things in the works here. We do stories, we do games. I guess that's about it. But then we have our other content, of course. We have on Tuesday mornings and Friday evenings, we open some Pokemon stuff. In fact, got some still hanging out right here next to me. Let's see, where's that at? There it is. I think that's it. Oh, you can't quite say it. It is back there. Cards from yesterday's stream still hanging out there. Those are, yeah. Tuesday morning, 9 a.m. is our morning streams, like today, Eastern. And Friday is the only evening stream, which is 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we don't stream on Sunday, so every day except Sunday, we're here. Trying to slowly get into maybe even doing 2 streams per day, one in the morning, one in the evening. As we get other creators joining us here at Nerds Templar, we'll be able to even fill in more of those time slots as we can do more live streams, even more videos. So that'll be something else coming up. But yeah, we also play Pokemon TCG Live Monday mornings. And we do a non-Pokemon TCG collection stream on Thursday mornings. Other than that, we do these on Wednesday and Saturday morning. It's a dual week release, episodic release here. So we have 2 every week, Wednesday and Saturday mornings. And we're going to be doing 30 episodes. Probably going to be right about 30 episodes. So yeah, it's going to take us into December. And I think after that, who knows what we'll probably continue with a story of some sort, custom Nerds Templar creation here. Not exactly sure if it'll be more Beyond Lumina or if we'll do some short stories based on our Wildlands universe that we use for some of our games as well. And speaking of games, that's another big thing we do here. We talked a little bit about it on some VODs in the past. Different games. Checked out AI generated artwork, just like you can see here up above me. Those are AI generated images, not actual artist creations, unfortunately. But those would be much appreciated. Those are much better than I can do myself though, so it gives a nice idea of what the characters should look like. I did enough generations that I was able to get at least, I think, one of everybody who's close enough, maybe not like clothing and everything being perfect, but at least themselves being pretty close to what they should look like, and also the clothing being at least kind of somewhat close to what it should be. But yeah, so Wildlands is some of the kids' board games and a children's card game that we've created are based around Wildlands. We have many others and more coming to fruition all the time. We're probably up over like 30 different games in the works. Maybe about 10. Well, actually, I think we've been over 30. We might be pushing like 40. And I think we have over 10 that are playable at this point. It's just a matter of getting those released the correct way. So once we can figure out how to do that, and I guess maybe get the funds together to do that, depending on how hard it is, how much it will, how financially devastating it'll be, then we'll hopefully eventually be able to do that, and even play some of those games on stream, even if they're board games, because there's plenty of different ways to do that. One main way being probably going to be using Tabletop Simulator, a great game simulator thing to use on. It's available on Steam. It's available actually in VR as well, which is kind of cool. So many different ways, many different options of being able to play through Tabletop Simulator. Even we'll have different board games of our creations prepared and ready to go that way, and we'll have some fun. Be able to do official stream matchups, matches, tournaments, and things of different games. Of course, we have our Fantasy Age series as well, which has many, not just stories, I guess, well, not just games, I guess, but also stories, because there's plenty of games for Fantasy Age, and again, even more of those. I think we had another idea for one. So anywho, that's all of that stuff. That's the schedule and what Nerds Templar is all about. Well, I guess I didn't say really what we're all about. Is the reason we do all that is to get away from all the woke media and entertainment, and to give, well, at least to give good people out there different options. Maybe not yet, but we'll build and build, and hopefully eventually we will be the option, the best option for people who aren't crazy, basically, what it comes down to. Because, you know, I can't be the only one who's tired of every single thing they watch being woke, modernist nonsense. So eventually people will find Nerds Templar, and they will want to be part of the cause, part of the movement, to just basically ourselves cancel woke media and woke entertainment. They can do whatever they want, and we'll do what we want. That's kind of the thinking behind it all. So yeah, if you're interested, yeah, like and subscribe. Eventually, maybe if you want, we can, you know, we'll have some ways of donating in the future. So you would like to support in a larger fashion. But for now, yeah, just hanging out, enjoying some of our content. That's all free, obviously. There you have it. And yeah, so speaking of then free content, I guess lastly, before, I mean, we've still got 20 minutes before the video actually launches, so we have plenty of time. I guess in the next 10 minutes. Cheers for one, hanging here with some coffee. We are doing this live, so there's no reason to, you know, just be rushing through everything. And again, like I said, eventually when we do this I guess is more for the benefit of just having the continuity's sake. But then, you know, maybe there will be some people who in the future would appreciate the live viewing, the extra little tidbits of content for the tried and true Beyond Lumina fans that'll in the future exist, hopefully. Then yeah, and eventually in the future, whenever we do have people that want to watch live and can watch live, and you know, whatever, then these will be even better. These will be great, nice hangout times, just like we do in all our streams. Hang out for a little bit. Usually those are like a 10-minute hangout before, just to let people filter into the stream. Not quite as long as this, but there's reason for this to be a little longer, I would say, because it's, especially in the future, once we do, you know, once we get these stories going, once they have some fans behind them, right, there'll be a lot more hype during the stream. And I wanted to do a countdown. Eventually we'll have a countdown going on stream for when we're going to start and when the video actually launches, which are simultaneous events. There are ways to do that on YouTube, I think automatically. I'm not exactly sure how it would work, especially if I want to start my stream earlier than the video actually launches. So that's why I'm just doing it this way. I obviously have the video file, so that's what we're going to watch, the regular video file. And yeah, that's why we're already here hanging out with it up. See, did I close the start? Yeah, we're good to go. And of course, during the video, I'm just gonna be silent here with my face hanging out. I'm gonna remove all those pictures at the top once we start going. But in the meantime, I'll give a brief overview of the entire story. Aezic Zin there in the middle. Let's just close those pictures now. This will be the, and also the music you hear is the musical number for the previous episode, episode 11. Trying to remember what it was called. Pursuit. That was it. All right. Let's hop over to a different page real quick. Boom. All right. There he is again. Lieutenant Aezic Zin of the Free World Alliance. Let me turn on the spoilers now. I'll turn live off. You know now. You know now. Aezic Zin, our main character, goes home to his planet, home planet of Ravina. Lumina is the name of the star of this star system, which the story is based around. It's an interstellar story, space story. Aezic, lieutenant, goes home. Free World Alliance lieutenant, one of the three major powers in the system. Goes home to his planet of Ravina, finds it ravaged recently by one of the other major powers known as the Royal Ascendancy. He's going home on leave. He's got some headaches, in fact, also some memory issues. When he gets there, he tries to find his family to no avail. He meets up with one Sergeant Vala Rees of the Free World Alliance who wants to help him. Again, no luck. He eventually leaves her partnership, and is met then by one Zario Launer and his crew, who is posing as Ravinian military, like on-world military. The Ravina, a part of the Free World Alliance. Aezic, being a Ravinian, is both a military officer in the Ravinian military and the Free World Alliance. Meets up with him and the rest of his crew, Valanth and Bohawk being his two underlings. They have more. There's in fact 4 others. There's 7 of them total. They go off on some missions, sent out on some missions by a captain of the Ravinian military, but they're all actually fakes. They're all actually mercenaries. The captain is working with the Ascendancy. For all they know, they don't know exactly what he is or anything, the fake captain. But all these guys are mercenaries who try to betray Aezic, and are also in turn betrayed by the Ascendancy. They, along with Aezic, make it off of an asteroid outpost. Hawk's subordinates, Philony and Usion, there with them. And then Valanth's subordinates, Mecha and Argyle. So all 7 of them plus Aezic escape an asteroid outpost where they were on which they were betrayed. Go to an independent world, kind of grab a ship there by coercion, sort of. Go to a Free World Alliance world, big city world, where Aezic then again runs into Vala Rees, who's now tracking him on orders from her superior, Sergeant Major Ty Ravim, because Aezic is suspected of perhaps treasonous activity while they're on this other Free World Alliance planet known as Sotama. Aezic, while he's with Vala Rees, discovers that he is in fact wanted. There's a bounty out for him by the Free World Alliance. He's already wanted by the Royal Ascendancy for some reason, wanted in some fashion, not necessarily the same fashion, because he doesn't belong to that one of the 3 major powers, the Ascendancy, the Free World Alliance, and the Tansorian Federation being the third of those, who was attacked also by the Royal Ascendancy. One of their main planets of food production, in fact, was blown to bits, pretty much, not necessarily destroyed, but rendered uninhabitable by something known as a super ion weapon, which is an illegal classification of weapon within the system-wide illegality. But the Ascendancy decides to do whatever they want, apparently. So that's where that is at, and we have some characters. I think actually they're right here. The other of Ravim's subordinates, other than Vala, is Master Sergeant Maloon doing some of their work, of course, for Ravim as Vala's away on her own, though, to try to actually keep tabs on Aezic undercover. Voss and Sergeant Benta, they are of the Saurian military in the Tansorian Federation. They're in fact on Sor receiving some of the refugees of the world of Ridikin, the one that was attacked, while Vala, who decides, because she contacts her superior, Tyravim, who tells her to continue to follow Aezic. She does so. Together, they try to escape the world of Sotama, the Free World Alliance world. They almost are captured when they're attempting to flee. At the last moment, though, Zario and the rest of the crew, who Aezic had kind of abandoned because it's not like they were really friends, they just had to they needed each other's help to survive the asteroid outpost. They remained, though Zario wanted to remain, even though nobody else really did. Hawk had been lost on the asteroid outpost, whenever the Ascendancy attacked them. He was watching the ship. He was lost. Everyone else kind of wants to go back and find him. Zario does as well, but he says they need to stay, so they do. And eventually they then are there to rescue Aezic and Vala, get off of Sotama, but they're then shot at by a defense cannon from the ground. Their Albion independent world, Albion ship, is damaged. They are then doomed to just drift lifelessly through space until the end. But then they're saved, even though they're in the middle, seemingly in the middle of nowhere, basically are in the middle of nowhere. They're saved by one Photoglaus, a salvager and religious figure on the world of Kostia, which is actually a royal ascendancy world, but they're kind of looked down upon, and they're sort of subjugated. That's why he's a salvager, scavenger out there finding lost ships and whatever, because they don't have any aid from the royal ascendancy, who kind of keeps them under their boot, nice and poor. They're also the closest world to Lumina, and the entire world's inhabitants are underground in a massive cave network that is half natural and half, like man-made, connected through man-made means, many natural tunnels. And so they live there. That they have a massive temple to their deity. Another one, Voter Blem, there, not happy whenever Glaus saves and then brings everybody to Kostia, which is sort of frowned upon to have outsiders there, but it's outright forbidden by the Ascendancy for the Kostians to speak at all about their religion to any outsiders, and most especially to have them enter one of their temples would be even worse. And Glaus, of course, takes them to the main temple where he's from, and so Blem is not happy about that. Sauter Tlarans of the female order side of the order also expressed her concern. She, although after agreeing, in fact, with Photoglass, who feels like he's being called by their deity to enact something, feeling that this is the time for some prophecy to be fulfilled. Sauter Talarans decides that she believes him enough that she was willing to then teach Vala a little bit about their religion, their ways, whenever she herself was having some kind of religious crisis or moment, some strange phenomena going on with her and Aezic. Aezic is just not, picking it up. And then the leader of their order, Abu Abila, however you want to pronounce it, both work, reprimands both of them, Glaus in particular, for what he's done, bringing the Outlanders there, putting basically their entire world, their faith, everything at risk by doing that, perhaps drawing the ire of the Ascendancy, who will even perhaps destroy their entire world because of what they've done. That's at least the threat that they've made in the past. So he basically pulls Glass out of duty, and he takes over, because they were in fact visited by the officer in charge of Kostia, known as Officer Drop. He comes with his whole band of ascendancy soldiers, also known as Mirrors. They are also called Mirrors, whether they're the race of known as Mirrors or not. The Mirrors are the original royal ascendancy race, and so basically all ascendancy can also be referred to as Mirrors. The ascendancy race, the Mirror race, exhibits a slight graying of the skin, as you can see here. Again, AI generated images, keep that in mind. So they can only be so good. Drop comes, he's actually looking for Aezic and the rest. He knows they're there, and they're being hidden by Glaus and actually also Sauter Tlarans. Meanwhile, after their ship is repaired, Valanth, Mecha, and Argyle, who are all on the ship and never really go out into Kostia because they don't care about it, and they just want to stay, and they don't want to give up their weapons, which Aezic suggests that they do to keep the passive Kostians happy and less afraid of them. Valanth, Mecha, and Argyle, they don't want to wait any longer. They take the ship, they leave Kostia, and they go to look for Hawk by themselves. And so the rest are stranded, the rest being Aezic, Vala, Zario, Usion, and Filini. Drop, not happy that they can't find the Outlanders and they're not being given up, goes out, tells his subordinates as well as the rest of the soldiers, Crag and Nail being his subordinates, tells them to go each grab one of the Kostian citizens from the street and take them prisoner. So they do so, and they end up with 8, I believe it was, prisoners that they take. Maybe it was 6. I think it was 8. They take them back on board. They basically just go out to local space, come back, try to see if maybe Glaus is willing then to cooperate. Whenever Aezic and the rest discover all of this is hostage and that the Kostage Glaus had put his own people at risk just for some crazy religious nonsense, just to tell them about this stuff. And also that the Kostians didn't give them up either. He just thinks everyone's insane. He doesn't want anything to do with it, and he wants to leave them on their own. Although, deep inside, he doesn't really want to. And everyone else does want to help the Kostians because they kind of did get them in a tough situation, and they are basically their only help, since they don't even own any weapons themselves. They just don't have anything to defend themselves at all. And so Rini, who Aezic meets, I guess we gotta meet. We saw her picture already. There is Master Sergeant Maloon, who is out now going to find Vala to make sure that everything's okay, because they haven't heard from her for a bit after she started tracking Aezic. Maloon, along with her subordinate Corporal Dodds, have gone off to do that. So that's him. Rini, Aezic met her at a mushroom grove in Kostia, one of the best foods that they have available, just some plain old mushrooms grown in a cave. Meets her, they kind of have a thing right off the bat, but then at the same time, they're very much opposites. They then discover, when they go back to this mushroom grove later, that her father was one of the ones taken by Drop and his men. She's not happy at all about it, wants them to go away, the savages, Outlander savages, and so they do. And Aezic is like, whatever, done with them, even more than at that point. But then, whenever they do come back, Drop and the rest come back with the prisoners coming for Glaus, Rini goes to find them, begs for their help. Aezic decides finally that they will. They come up with a plan to sneak on board and to pose as pirates, just trying to hijack the Ascendancy ship, without allowing Glaus and the other officers to see them, because they would recognize them. They're able to do so. They almost get away with everything. They almost get away with it if it wasn't for the pesky higher up Ascendancy officer than Drop's commander that was watching them all along and was ready for, and this was last episode, ready for them, as we are 5 minutes now from the new one. 4 minutes. Ooh. As they were then attempting to escape, the commander, who was not too far away from them as he was expecting Drop to come back, still didn't know who they were, didn't care to give the ship up to pirates, was willing to shoot it down, attempted to do so. So Aezic and Zario Aezic and Zario were going to get on the weapons. They sent fighters after the Ascendancy frigate that they had stolen, and so they hopped on the guns. And the young boy from Kostia, there was a few elderly men, a few women, and this one young boy that were taken by the Ascendancy soldiers. And he, young artist, stepped up to the plate to help out, even though he had no idea what he was doing or why he was doing it, and he was scared out of his wits. He felt like he was called, sort of like Laos was called. He felt like he was called to do something and to help protect his Kostian brethren, kinsmen. So he goes and he tries to help, and he in fact does take out one of the fighters at the very end. They almost again make it away, but the ship is damaged. They have to they can't repair the ship without basically coming to a stop and doing so, and they would be caught. And so they have to just make the little bit of repairs they can to try to hold out long enough to make it to a different planet, which they try to do. They are making it away, hoping that the Ascendancy doesn't know that their ship is damaged. But then the repairs don't hold out as long as they hope that they do. They have to eject from the rest of the ship the bridge, which becomes an escape pod for them. I think I might be ahead of myself a little bit, so I'm just going to stop there. But I will say, no, yeah, the repairs aren't going to hold. That's right. That is true. And they decide they can't make it quite as far as they wanted to. And instead, the only planet that they can go to, which they weren't going to go to, which is closer, is a pre-space planet and known as Inagon. Pre-space planets being those who haven't reached any space age yet, not even the including the advanced space age of all the others, and thus it is illegal to make any contact with them. Yeah, for any of the powers. And so it's a very grave illegal act to land, to make any contact with a planet like this, but no choice in the matter. And so with that, we join our heroes aboard the stolen Ascendancy frigate, damaged and on their way to this pre-space world of Inagon. Let us begin. Perfect timing. Like, comment, and subscribe. Contact. Beyond Lumina, Episode 12. Contact. The next rotation on SOAR was one Private Kvass had awaited for quite some time. He had been off duty for about a rotation, preparing to meet with his superior, Sergeant Benta. He had told Kvass that he was going to assign him to a new position. After having spent a lot of time helping refugees and doing a good job of it, Benta thought it was time for a change of pace for the young man, who seemed to be worn out from the emotional struggle of it all. This new position Kvass would be assigned to, however, required him to be promoted from private to first private, a small victory that meant the world to Kvass. Most of those who had joined the military with him had already risen in ranks, but he was not trying to compete with anyone. He was trying to return honor to his family, and this was another triumphant step toward that goal. Kvass eventually returned to the barracks after his short reprieve, and awaited his commander to officially give him his new orders. Sergeant Benta arrived shortly after Kvass. "Private," he said, upon entering the room in which Kvass was waiting. "I suppose this is the last time I can call you that." "Sergeant Benta," Kvass greeted him. "Thank you. It means a lot to me that you think I'm ready for this." I know, his sergeant replied. "You've told me 20 times already. But although you're an airhead sometimes, the fact is you've earned this. Nobody on our team, or even in the whole squad, works as hard or cares about what they do as much as you. That was made even more clear to me with how you've handled the refugee situation so far. But I hope you're ready for more than sentry duty. I'm going to be expecting much more from you, and much less daydreaming. Of course, Commander, Private Kavas assured him. I'm ready to do whatever needs doing. Good, Ventus said, because I think, whatever has been going on around the system, it's only just beginning. Aezic, Zario, Vala, and the Costians flew the Ascendancy frigate toward the planet of Inagon in desperation. Every now and then the ship would shake, as the damaged power system, still receiving some power through the coupling, continued to explode. The pursuing battleship had dropped off their nav array, but they dared not reset the system, especially now that they were well past Brunio's local space. Their only hope was to make it near enough to Inagon. But Inagon was a pre-space world. They were about to commit one of the greatest crimes in the whole system, but they had no other choice. Are you sure about this, Aezic? Vala asked, the explosions shaking out each word. No, he answered, but it's the only way. If we weren't all system-wide fugitives already, Zario shouted, we will be now. Aezic understood their reluctance. It wasn't an easy decision to make, to possibly disrupt an entire civilization by their interference, but Aezic was determined to get everyone out of this situation. He thought of Irini, the woman back on Kostia whose father was aboard the ship with him, one of the hostages the Ascendancy had taken. He thought of how he didn't want to disappoint her most of all. Then he chastised himself for daydreaming about a woman he hardly knew like a love-struck child. No, he thought. I'm doing this because it's my duty to help people. That, and I need to make it out of this to find out what is going on with my own people. Just then, the damaged power system blew up once more, this time blasting a hole through the port side of the ship. The emergency shields activated, but it was only a matter of time before the capacitor itself would blow the entire vessel apart. I think this is it, Aezic, said Photoglass. We need to cut the power or abandon ship. We'll need to abandon ship anyway if we do that, Aezic replied. He went back to the nav array and tried to calculate how much farther they needed to go. Just a little more, he muttered. Then he said, I'll be right back. Then, Aezic ran over to the engineering console where Glass was seated and began inputting something. What are you doing? Vala asked. The best chance we have at covering our trail is to let the ship go, Aezic answered, and I can't leave those soldiers to die in that room. You can't be serious, Zario retorted. This is too much, Zin. We're about to die and you're still trying to play hero. Aezic wasn't listening, and instead ran out from the bridge once again. For Lumina's sake, this guy wants to get us all killed. Aezic had manipulated the room's environment as he had planned before, and as desired, had knocked out the 9 Ascendancy soldiers within the room. Then Glaus, Artis, and 2 of the elderly men showed up. We're here to help, Glaus told Aezic. He looked up at them, a little relieved. Good, you two, he said to the elderly men. Go find some more binds and something to blindfold them. We will move them to the bridge. Hurry. One of the old men left as quickly as he could, while the other searched the room in which the Ascendancy soldiers already were. Aezic, Glaus, and Artis began dragging the unconscious soldiers down the corridor and onto the bridge. Soon, the 2 old men returned to the bridge with binds and blindfolds, and set to work on the soldiers that were already there. It only took a few minutes to get them all onto the bridge, where the others finished securing them. Okay, let's get out of here now, please, Zario shouted. He hadn't done anything to help, besides make sure they were prepared to abandon ship. Again, Aezic made his way to the engineering console, where he again engaged a series of commands. Hold on to something, he said. Suddenly the bridge jolted, and sent the Kostians to the floor, despite them heeding Aezic's warning. Then, the bridge separated itself from the rest of the Ascendancy frigate as its own small power system kicked on, and a gravitational oscillator started propelling them forward, away from the rest of the ship. By Aezic's calculations, they would have enough power in their new escape pod to reach Inagon. He had no idea what they'd do after that. Only a minute after ejecting from the rest of the ship, Aezic looked back through the bridge's door that had become a small viewport. As he saw the remainder of the vessel erupt in a ball of flame behind them. "Hold on!" he yelled again. A moment later, the force of the blast sent their small escape pod barreling through space and sent the passengers all across the bridge. "Move over!" Zaryo shouted to the old Kostian on the helm, shoving him aside. He did what he could and soon managed to stabilize their small capsule. Everyone collapsed out of exhaustion, thinking they'd gone through the worst of it all. Everyone but Aezic, who wasn't so sure. It wasn't long before their approach to the world of Inagon began. It was rough, even once they entered the atmosphere, due to a large storm they flew into. But the bridge-turned escape pod held together well through the descent. But once they entered the lower atmosphere, they were once more thrown into a panic, as a massive metallic bolt penetrated through the back of their vessel, nearly impaling both Vala and Photoglaus at the rear of the bridge. "What the?" Zarya said, looking back at what had happened. "What is that?" "It's Aetherium," Aezic said in shock. "Get us on the ground, now! We're under attack!" Zarya immediately pitched their escape vessel downward, but he couldn't find any clear land. The world of Inagon was mostly water, with some islands and very small continents that were heavily forested. When they safely made it over land, all they saw were large green canopies of leafy trees. "Hang on," Zarya said now. "This is going to be rough." Pulling up the best he could, Zarya tried to slow the ship down as it crashed into the dense thicket of branches. Then, everything went dark. Reports have confirmed that the independent planet of Ob, currently making its cycle near Sotama, was recently occupied by the Royal Ascendancy, shortly after one of their battleships was found destroyed near Ob's local space. The Free World Alliance has since sent their own forces, along with aid, to the citizens of the independent planet. The Royal Ascendancy, however, has blockaded the planet of Ob, so Alliance aid has yet to successfully make it to the ground. If you would like to help the Obian people in this time of need, funds may be sent directly to the Alliance's Interworld Outreach Program, along with the designation for Ob relief. In related news, the deadly manhunt for an Alliance military officer turned traitor continues. Former Lieutenant Aezic Zin of Ravina is thought to be in league with Ascendancy spies, and continues to evade capture throughout the system, refusing to turn himself in. Reports also indicate that he is tied to the Ascendancy's ship that was destroyed near Ob. A full description of him and the mercenaries he is working with are available on the Alliance network. They were last seen fleeing the local space of Sotama. He and his crew are all extremely dangerous, and if you see any of them, find a safe place and call the authorities. A large reward will be given for helping in the capture of any of the crew members. Aezic gazed out from a white beach across an immense, deep blue sea. The salty breeze blowing from the water was as refreshing as the light of Lumina was on his weary face. As he breathed deeply, Aezic was filled with a great peace, feeling as though all his cares were gone. Then, he suddenly became aware of a presence behind him. Turning, he saw a strange-looking man, very tall and thin, a curiously ambiguous shape, and very pale skin, so bright it seemed to glow in Lumina's rays. But for some reason, Aezic thought he seemed familiar. "Hello," Aezic said to the man. "Who are you?" The man smiled at him. "How odd it is that you do not know." "I'm sorry," Aezic said. feeling as though perhaps he was offending the man. I meet a lot of people and forget most names. It's not personal. It's quite all right, the man replied, still smiling. Perhaps you will get to know me. They looked at one another silently for a few moments. Aezic had no idea what to make of this man. Can I ask what you're doing here? Aezic eventually inquired. I saw you were in need, and so I came to help, the man answered. What do you mean, I'm in need? Aezic wondered. I'm fine. How odd it is for a man to believe he is fine, the man repeated, still bearing the same grin, when he does not even have a firm place to stand. Aezic was confused as he stared at the man, then out to sea once more, then down where he was standing. He saw then, to his astonishment, that he was standing atop the water of the seas, and immediately he sank into their depths. Then the waves crashed and the waters churned so violently that Aezic couldn't fight them, and he descended into the deep darkness. Through the waters that engulfed him, he thought he could hear the man's voice once again. When will you begin to trust? Vala blinked awake, squinting in the bright rays of Lumina that poured into her bedroom, thanks to the clear Rayayu sky. She stretched and yawned, feeling refreshed. She then heard a light knock at her door, and a woman entered who looked much like Vala. Mother, Vala greeted this woman with a smile. How are you? Vala never remembered her mother looking so beautiful before, almost dazzling. It's good to see you, my child. It is good that we can talk. Her mother returned the smile at first, but then suddenly deep sorrow filled her face. Such a look of grief her mother had never before borne. Vala felt as though she herself would cry from her mother's expression. Mother, what's wrong? Vala asked, very concerned. What's happened? Vala Liriris. Her mother used her full name. You must listen to me. Aezic, your friend, is in terrible danger. Vala didn't expect such a response from her mother. What do you mean, mother? She asked, confused. How did you know that he is my friend? And what sort of danger is he in? Vala couldn't recall Aezic telling her of any troubles lately. Vala, her mother started again more sternly, ignoring her questions. Listen closely. You must first trust what you learned at the temple. You must then trust Aezic and his practical judgment, and nothing else. But at the same time, Aezic needs to be guided to his path, and only you can help him get there. It is up to you. I don't understand, Vala stammered. What trouble is he in? What is this path? There is no time, her mother said quickly. The walls are already collapsing. Vala looked around. Her room was falling apart, and there was nothing at all on the other side of the walls. Remember what you must do, was the last thing she heard her mother say. Vala suddenly awoke, and was immediately aware she was being moved roughly. Aezic woke with a start, spitting up water that was pouring onto him. Shaking his head, he noticed a small stream of water, the remnants of the deluge, leaking through a crack in the escape pod's hull. What a weird dream, he thought. It hadn't felt like one, but then, he was actually being drowned by the ship's makeshift rainspout. Looking out of the craft, which was relatively well preserved despite a rough landing, Aezic saw nothing but forest, aside from the trail they had blazed through it. Even in the dense woods, the howling of the wind through the cracks in the ship was evident as soon as Aezic was conscious, as he recalled that the weather was bad when they had arrived on the wet and green, free-space planet of Inagon. Lumina wasn't out yet. It was pitch black beyond the glow of the few lights of the escape pod that still worked in the smoldering wreckage. Aezic, once fully awake, then began accounting for everyone that was on board, and immediately noticed that there were only 3 Ascendancy soldiers remaining in the escape pod. none of which were Drop or his officers. The three were still bound, so Aezic let them alone. They were still knocked out, but whether from Aezic's manipulation of the environment or the harsh landing, he couldn't say. But the others were also unconscious. Once Aezic started moving around, however, he started to hear some of the others stirring as well. Yep, Aezic heard Zarya's voice after a loud groan. Definitely still alive. The two slowly made their way to their feet, then helped the costume to stay. Everyone seemed fine, except Vala, who remained unconscious. Aezic found a wound on the side of her head that he deemed the cause. Their escape pod luckily still had sufficient medical supplies to treat her injuries, and Aezic set to work repaying her favor to him. Say what you want about them, Zarya began again, but the Ascendancy knows how to make a sturdy ship, if nothing else. Once Aezic had patched Vala up, he turned his attention toward everyone else, namely Artis, the young costume boy. Hey, how are you holding up? Aezic asked him. I'm good, the boy replied. Just a couple little bumps for me. I was lucky. Aezic thought the boy was off a little, as though he was in shock or something. It was not luck, my boy, Glass said, sitting next to Artis, with a bandage around his left hand. He put the other hand on the boy's shoulder. Omnis is with us. Oh yeah, Zarya chimed in, feeling slighted. No need to thank me for the great landing, old man. Glass grinned and replied, Yes, and thank Omnis you were with us to have seen us through such an ordeal. Aezic rolled his eyes, then felt a little bad, but he didn't think anyone noticed. He turned his attention back to Vala, but then one of the Ascendancy soldiers bolted awake. Where am I? He shouted in alarm. What's going on? Aezic could hear the fear in his voice, and he felt sorry for the soldier. He was a young man. He noticed that the soldier was the same one that had addressed them on the bridge. Aezic thought perhaps it would be alright to remove the blindfold, now that the officers were gone. The Ascendancy soldiers squirming and yelling had roused his other two young companions, who were starting to get agitated in turn. After looking at everyone very intentionally, trying to signal to them that they needed to begin the act, Aezic made his way to the three enemy soldiers and uncovered their eyes. Enough, Aezic said roughly. We are in the middle of a forest on a pre-space planet, and your commanders have abandoned you. You have two choices. Either stay here and comply with everything I say, or leave right now and try your luck out there. Take your pick. The Ascendancy trio looked at one another fearfully. Then two of them took off in a stumbling sprint out of the escape pod, into the dark forest. The soldier who was first awake was the only one who stayed. Strange of you to throw your lot in with pirates who hijacked your ship, Aezic said to him. The soldier's voice faltered a moment. I figured if you were giving us the choice, then you were planning on killing us. And it seems a better place in here at the moment than... He looked outside, in the unknown wilderness. Out there. Aezic stared at him. Why does he have to make this difficult? He wondered. He couldn't bring himself to force the young soldier, who was clearly afraid, out into the strange forest. Fine, then sit there and be quiet. One wrong move and my associate won't hesitate to blast you. Zarya looked at the Ascendancy soldier menacingly, resting his hand on the handle of his plasma pistol. The soldier quickly nodded, his face pale. Aezic then turned to the Kostians, continuing the act. All of you, get to work patching up the ship. Who knows how long we'll be stuck here. This is all the shelter we have from whatever and whoever is out there. Glaus then instructed the group on what to do, while Aezic tried to figure out what systems still worked. Both the nav array and the comms were down. However, Aezic thought there may still be a chance to repair communications, but he would have to go outside the ship to do it, so he was going to wait until the storm subsided. Then, Aezic thought he heard something knock against the top of their escape pod, but he couldn't be certain over the clamor of the storm. He tried to sharpen his hearing. and peered out into the darkness, attempting to catch a glimpse of something. Then he heard another noise on the top of the pod. It almost sounded like something moving. He looked at Zario, who seemed to notice it too. "Something's out there," Aezic warned everyone. But then a small, round object, which looked like a dried melon, came rolling into the pod from one of the cracks above them. Aezic looked at it in alarm as it began to smoke profusely, quickly clouding the room. "It's poison," he exclaimed. "Are there any masks on the bridge?" he asked the Ascendancy soldier through coughs. It was no use. The soldier was already out cold, and Aezic could feel himself starting to slip into unconsciousness too. The Ascendancy leader on board the ship that was pursuing Aezic and the others was in a very bad mood as he sat in the command chair on the bridge of the large battleship. This in turn put the rest of the crew on edge, never being too sure how, or on whom, he would decide to relieve his anger. Luckily for the other Ascendancy soldiers, there was a turn in their favor. The Ascendancy leader, known as Master Omen, had opened communications with another low-ranking officer to discuss what their next steps would be. "I believe they've crashed on Inigon," Master Omen explained. "I'm not taking my ship there. I'm leaving you to deal with it now." "And you're sure he was on board?" the officer over the comms asked. "There's no other way," Master Omen confirmed. "So figure out how you're going to take care of this. I have more important matters to discuss now with the High Masters." Omen did not wait for a response from the other officer, and instead ended communications. "Keep on toward Ravina. Open channels to all High Masters and the Grand Master. Then get out," he ordered his helmsman. Then he added, more to himself, "It seems we must have a conversation about the cur from Castia." Zario slowly regained consciousness, groggily rolling his head, then shaking himself awake. The storm had let up while he was out, and he could tell Lumina was upon them, as he could finally make out some details of the forest beyond the crash site. He looked around and saw that all the others were still aboard the escape pod bridge, all except for Aezic and Vala. Zario stumbled to his feet, and saw he was the only one up. He immediately went over to the Ascendancy soldier and violently shook him awake. The young soldier came to, and began to panic once again, seeing the look in Zario's face. Zario dragged him to a sitting position and shoved him to the nearby wall of the pod. "Was this your people? Was it?" He had a concentrated plasma pistol pointed at the soldier's chest. No, the Ascendancy prisoner sputtered, then started again quickly when he saw Zario become even more angry. I don't know what that was. I never saw anything like it before, I swear." Zario looked at him a few moments longer, then released his grasp around the young soldier's collar and sighed. "What in Lumina are we gonna do now?" he muttered. After thinking for a while as the others came to, he turned toward the Costians. "I guess we have two options. Either we stay here and wait for our attackers to return, or we go out there and hope we don't get killed. I'm not liking our odds in either case, so decide what you're going to do. I'm not dragging anyone through this forest who doesn't want to go." Photoglass immediately looked at the young Costian, Artis, who had already shown his eagerness to step up when needed. Artis returned the look, as though to give Glass his own answer. The Foder didn't think the others would be up for the arduous task of trekking through the unknown woods. "I think we need to take our chances here," Glass finally said. "But I do not think you should abandon your comrades. We will be just as vulnerable with or without you here, I fear. Perhaps our only chance of making it out is for you to find the others." "Fine," Zario agreed. "And what about this guy?" He gestured to the Ascendancy soldier. "I'm not leaving him here with you, and he'll just cause me problems." "Leave him here," the Foder answered. "We have plenty of weapons now if we must defend ourselves." Do you know how any of them work? Zario asked. Well, no, Laos confessed. Zario rolled his eyes, then proceeded to give a quick lesson to the Kostians on the use of plasma pistols and plasma blades. He then decided against giving plasma blades to any of them except Artis, who was the only one of the bunch who showed enough coordination to wield it somewhat safely. When he was satisfied enough, Zario went over to the Ascendancy soldier, doubled up his binds, and even attached him to one of the synth metal beams of the bridge's hull. Don't move, don't speak, don't even look at them, Zario commanded the prisoner, who anxiously nodded in understanding. He then turned to Artis. You're in charge now, kid, Zario said. Do your best to keep them safe, and watch out for more of those smoking melons. I will, Artis replied, trying to sound confident. Inside, however, he felt as though he had failed his people once already, during the battle with the Ascendancy fighters. He didn't think he was up to the task anymore. That supernatural courage that seemed to fill him before was now gone. He had no choice now, though, as Zario exited the escape pod and set out alone into the deep wilderness that laid in every direction in search of Aezic and Vala. That's it. Episode 12 in the books. Nope. All right, yeah, so we have reached the pre-space planet of Inagon, the first of the pre-space planets in the story, of course, obviously. Not something you have people landing on every day. So yeah, no new characters necessarily introduced by name or anything. Although, I don't know, perhaps there are going to be some more in the future. There was one more named, I guess, Master Omen, the Ascendancy leader that was on the battleship that was pursuing them at first. Decided that it was time for one of the other Ascendancy officers to take over. That was that little conversation toward the end there. Sydney bopping around behind me. So yeah, again, Wednesday and Saturday mornings for the new episodes. We'll be back here, episode 13. Next Wednesday morning at 9, we'll start the stream. 9:30, the episode will drop. Episode 13, entitled Savages. And I wonder what that could mean. Of course, every episode is like a chapter of a book. It's about 30 episodes, about 10 pages. I'm actually keeping it to a pretty strict 10 pages per chapter now. So we're going to end up being at a 300-page, basically a 300-page Google document that we're working through here. So pretty decent size, I would say, for book one. That is book one, the Book of Aezic. Aezic Zin, again, our main character. And here, of course, you have a rundown of all the characters we've met so far: Private Kvass and then Sergeant Benta. Now, a little extra, a little more. Heard from them a bit. Private Kvass now, first Private Kvass. Also didn't mention, but and it wasn't obviously mentioned here because Mecha, Argyle, and Valanth were not in this episode. But again, they're off trying to search for Hawk, who's been lost since almost the beginning. Mecha, though, her last name is Launer. She is Zario's younger sister. That was revealed in like episode 6 or something. That's the reason it's not listed here, just because it wasn't in the very beginning. It's not something that is immediately known, so I didn't have her last name there, but it is Mecha Launer. And so Zario, you can imagine in the back of his mind, is very not just concerned about his friends, but also his sister being one of them that has gone off. Oh, I guess we weren't that far yet on our little stroll down character lane. And again, as I always say, this is that's funny. Schizoid. Yeah, now I can't remember what I was saying. I believe I was just mentioning. Yeah, these are all just AI generated images, so I don't have this type of skill or talent. That's why at the end of every episode it says your artwork here. I think the first 3 episodes, I believe it was just the first 3, I did have like extremely uh, extremely bad drawing, not really even drawings, but I guess you could call them drawings there at the end of the episodes. But yeah, I didn't want to keep doing that because it was kind of just a big waste of time. 1 second here. So yeah, I didn't keep doing that. There's these. It's about all I got. So just, yeah, keep in mind that they are AI generated. And yeah, that's about it. Let's see, how many are we at now? I think we're at like 24 named slash pictured. I guess we have more named characters, but about 24 pictured characters now that I felt were, worth at least generating AI images of. And so there they all are. Again, one more time before the end here. So episode 12, what did we have happen? Brief recap, I guess. They had to basically go escape pod version, trying to just reach some sort of something that's not space. And so they decide the only thing they can do is go to the pre-space world of Inagon. It's a rough landing. There's a bit of, you'd say, dreaming happening. And then they wake up. Basically all the Ascendancy soldiers are gone except for a few. The other 2 of 3 run. One Aezic gives them the option. One stays bound up because who really would want to go out there? Apparently all the Ascendancy soldiers except for one. But then, of course, then they're knocked out again by some means that they're not necessarily accustomed to. And so then whenever Zarya wakes up, he realizes that Aezic and Vala are both gone. Everyone else is still there. At first he thinks it's maybe the Ascendancy is doing, but then after he questions the Ascendancy soldier that's still there, captured prisoner, willingly staying as a prisoner, he also then, and he says it's not obviously the Ascendancy that did it, and Zarya then also has time to think about whether it could be or not. He decides, yeah, it wasn't, but he's going to have to go find Aezic and Vala. Cover basically blown, almost, you could say at that point. Doesn't really matter since everyone's run off. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. He goes off and leaves young artists in charge with the rest of the Kostian folk, who are just a bunch of passives. So they don't know how to do anything. Artists, the most capable, and he is not. So that's where they're left. Zario off into the deep, dark unknown, looking for Vala and Aezic. And that is that. And we will catch you again for episode 13 on Wednesday morning. And other than that, and then episode 14 will be next Saturday. So every week we got 2 episodes that come out. And this will take us into I think mid-December. It might be early December. And then that'll be that. Maybe take a quick break around through Advent and Christmas, and then come back maybe right after that for a winter series. But other than that, we also have our Pokemon TCG collection series in Tuesday mornings, and then a bigger one Friday evenings. We play TCG live on Monday mornings at about like 9:30 a.m. usually Eastern. And then we also do a non-Pokemon TCG collection stream on Thursday mornings. That's usually Lorcana or Yu-Gi-Oh! Union Arena, a new TCG though that just came out. We're gonna maybe be checking that out next Thursday. So that's what we do. That's what we do. And I'm trying to get to 2 different streams, or at least a stream and a video every day. So yeah, one in the morning, one in the evening, probably something like that. Probably gonna come back with like an actual Temple Foundry vodcast like we were doing back in the day, with just talking about our own creations here, things that are happening, not just beyond Lumina, but the Wildlands series, all the different games that we're creating here, testing out other stories we got in the works. So yeah, that, and maybe one more collection stream, Pokemon collection stream, fit into the week perhaps in the future. So bunch of different things going on here. I'll probably like and subscribe. I'm gonna hopefully try to get like I got a dry erase calendar, and hopefully I can get that set up and show that to you guys on the community tab every month at the beginning of the month, and kind of give hopefully some kind of basic idea at least of what we'll be doing. You can also join the Discord. It's a great way to know when everything is going live, because that's where I post everything. Other than that, yeah, I guess I will see you guys in the next one. I don't know where my thing is. Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah, I guess I will see you guys in the next one then. That's all for now. Join me, nothing tomorrow, but Monday morning we'll be here, TCG Live, Pokemon TCG Live. If you're into Pokemon stuff, we'll be here again Tuesday morning for opening some Pokemon cards. And then again, Wednesday morning for episode 13, we'll start the live stream for the live viewing at 9 a.m. The video drops at 9:30, so we'll just hang out for about a half hour, do a little brief recap of what happened, previously on, and then we'll watch it live like we did today. But until then, guys, that's it. I'm Randy, and this is Nerds Templar. Peace, and have a blessed Sunday.